My name is Pablo Garcia. As Julie said, I'm the Director of Special Planning, Director of Special Projects for U.S. Soccer Federation. I'm an LA native. I just moved to Chicago over the last 6 months, so really happy to be back here and talking about LA 84. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Beyond the Bell, which is one of the flagship programs that LA 84 puts together. With me, I have Dr. Tiffany Berry, who's a research associate professor at the Claremont Evaluation Center, and Keith Ramirez, who's one of an exemplary coach within the program. He's been with the program for about 7 years, and we'll tell a little more about Keith in a minute. But Beyond the Bell is a chance for LA 84 to connect with LAUSD and touch a great deal of students. But I want to turn it over to Tiffany to tell us a little bit about how the program's set up and a little bit about the demographics of the kids it serves.
Yeah, sure. Really happy to be here today to talk in this session just about data. Like, who doesn't love data?
Love data.
Right? Who doesn't? And I really appreciated the previous panelists talking about kind of outcome measurement and needing data. But I also think it's really important to think holistically about data, that it's not just the very end result of what happens, but as we heard even in the morning about the power of coaches and the power of connecting and everything as wonderful as what Keith is going to talk about, it's really important to also put a measurement lens to that piece too. But since I can't do anything without a PowerPoint. So several years ago, the LA 84 Foundation and the Beyond the Bell program over at LA Unified got together to really talk about what were some of these key conceptual drivers that are going to be a foundational kind of process and system for success in an after-school sports-based program. And one obviously key piece was that it was school-based, that it was meeting kids where they were at, and also allowing a greater facilitation and connection between sports and school. And so just a brief example, part of our evaluation framework is including lots of both qualitative and quantitative data. And one of the qualitative pieces we did recently was reached out to former LA 84 middle school participants who are current high school athletes. And it was really interesting when we asked them to kind of reflect back on their formative experiences. And one of the things that they were talking about were, in sports, if I am perceiving myself as somebody who works hard, who doesn't quit, who is able to kind of persevere against all odds, how does that change once I move into math class? Like, it doesn't. That's who I am. That's who I'm identifying as. And that's a really important piece to also think about the middle school focus. Why middle school? Well, early adolescence is such a critical part of our developmental lifespan. And the fact that we're able to use sports as a mechanism to really connect the identity for these kids, to really develop them through the help of this caring, supporting coach, which is another really important piece of the model, is really part of these foundational elements that are helping us succeed. And this is just kind of put to test 8 years ago about let's try this out. Let's see the effectiveness of these different pieces and how they come together. So there's after-school sports being offered every single day after school across LA Unified middle school programs, free to students, and 77% of the students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So they do a variety of different kinds of sports, from soccer to volleyball to flag football to rugby to futsal. They have skill development days, league development days, regional tournaments, district-wide tournaments. So. Right.
So that to be able to touch all those kids every day, it's got to be huge. Can you tell a little bit about the numbers? Like, how far do you get?
Yeah, well, the numbers are, and one of the things that I've really appreciated about LA 84 is their commitment to evaluation. and commitment to evaluation, not just at the very, very end, but in really trying to understand the process too. So not only are coaches well-trained to begin with, how do they implement, and then how do they interact with these students to eventually lead to some kind of change? So some of the key findings that we're seeing is participation rates are increasing extraordinarily high. You're seeing girls' participation really skyrocket. You're seeing participation across both boys and girls increase. You're seeing kids participate not just in one sport, but multiple sports, and that's grown over time. And then also the consistent, when you're looking at outcomes, those that are consistently participating and those who perceive that they're participating in a high quality environment. So we ask kids about quality.
Right.
And those are the kids that are really reaping the most benefits.
Right, and it's that high quality environment that's driven by great coaches.
That's
So,
absolutely.
like Keith and Kaylin talked about, like Jai talked about, the value of the coach, it goes beyond what most of us ever think about. So I'm going to introduce Keith a little bit, and I'm going to put him on the spot. Keith, this is a note from a parent about Keith. And I'm just going to read a little quick piece. Keith is committed to helping these kids succeed not only in athletics, but at life itself. Keith gives these kids more support than some have ever known in their lives. He gives them something invaluable. He gives them hope for their own future. He teaches them to help others, and you see that manifest itself as older kids come back each year to help the next set of younger kids. So, thanks. So Keith, obviously it's growing. Obviously people want to keep coming back to the program. They tell their friends. That's why the growth continues. Can you tell a little bit about a special story about someone?
Yeah, so working for the program, you meet a different number of students, but they also come with different backgrounds. And last year I met one student, his name was Ramirez. This student was a great athlete. He participated in every sport that we offered. But one thing that he lacked was his grades, his attitudes towards administrators, teachers, and everything like that. I found out Aaron got kicked out of one of his classes, that he had to sit in a counseling office for just this one period. So as myself, having good relationships with administration and everything, that I talked to them and asked me, let me take Aaron and let me just talk to him. So throughout the period for a good month or so, I would meet with them every day, talk to him, talk about life, things, what's going on in school and stuff like that. But until he opened up to me, I realized this kid had a really, really bad background. Parents that didn't support him, parents that weren't there for him, basically. So I asked Aaron, what do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? He told me, Coach, I want to play high school soccer. I want to graduate middle school. And I told him, what if I can help you graduate? And he told me, how? I have straight fails. Well, from this point on, I want you to just do your work and I'll deal with the rest. He's like, okay. And I also added something else into it. I told him, if you graduate, I'll buy you a pair of Vans. And he's like, okay. He's like, what if I raise a fail? I was like, I'll get you in and out. Every fail you raise up, I'll get you in and out. He's like, okay. So for a month straight, I would meet with his teachers, trying to convince them that to give this kid another try. But in their mind, they were telling me that, oh, Aaron, he's just gonna mess up again. It's just another student that's just gonna come mess up and get more in trouble and so on. But I told them, no, he's gonna change. I'll give you my word. They're like, okay, they finally gave in. I made the teachers a promise, there's gonna be 1 week straight that I will come and I'll sit with him in one of his classes. And I did that. I would come out of my day in the mornings, sit with him in one of the classes and everything. So to make a long story short, when the time came where everybody was getting their notifications that they're gonna be graduating, Aaron came up to me and he showed me his. And I'm like, okay, that's good, you're graduating. It's like, yeah. And then they released the final report card. The kid had B's and C's in all of his classes. And the thing that choked me up was I always go to every one of my kids' graduations, and they have an opportunity to go get their diploma. So he got his diploma, and I went to congratulate him. He's like, oh, here, this is for you. He wanted to give me his diploma. I told him, why are you giving me this? He's like, because I could not do this without your help. And I told him, I already have one. I told him, this is for you. So if you ever doubt yourself again, you look at that piece of paper, and that's where you can see that you did it. So that was like one of the biggest impacts.
And those are the stories that drive this program. So 8 years. Tiffany, can you tell us a little bit about where it started 8 years ago and where it is now? Kind of what's that trajectory?
Yeah, so when I think about the trajectory, I think about the why. So again, I think so many times, especially in evaluation, we focus more on just the ultimate impact. But how do we get that? How do we capture the magic of what Keith did, right? That isn't captured by a standardized test. That isn't captured by just looking at grades. But what was it that Keith did that really connected with the kid, that made this child succeed so strongly? So when I think about kind of the trajectory of the program, the thing that I've been, I guess, most impressed with as both a professor of positive youth development as well as an external evaluator of evaluation is the why, and how much time and training that they dedicate to the why, and in relation to these two pieces in particular, kind of the program quality piece, that it doesn't just magically happen, it really happens through this intentionality that is even just kind of talked about as Keith just did. But this kind of approach to positive coaching, and to really be caring about these kids, providing support to the kids, and then being able to also not just offer the skill development, but also those generalizable skills that are going to apply to other domains of their life. But then the other piece is consistent attendance. So there are lots of structures and systems and supports to make sure that not only are the kids coming each day, but that they're engaged, that they're participating, that everybody is being included in this process. I just went out to a flag football observation the other day, and there was a child with special needs, and absolutely incorporated in, part of the team being supportive. So being able to kind of facilitate the environment for the success is where I really see kind of the growth of the program.
Right, and Keith, you've been in it for a long time. You've coached for 7 years, and now you just recently took the next step to help lead another site. How has it changed in those years for you?
Well, in the beginning, it was kind of me just more of coaching, and then not really looking at the big picture, which is the impact that it had on students. Right. And then just basically, and then also what they bring back. I always recommend my old students to come back and coach, to help the other students underneath them to get them ready for high school.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, like Tiffany mentioned, the data is really important, and how we measure it is really important, which is why LA84, along with Tiffany and her team, are looking at doing a longitudinal study. They're doing a 3-year study to really look at how the program is put together. You want to talk a little bit about the 3 years, kind of what those 3 years look like?
Sure. So we started this last year with a impact study, but again, not a prototypical impact study, because a lot of impact studies, again, just would track outcomes over time and then that's it. But we invested, and with LA84 support, being able to look at kind of a 3-year impact study, but being able to really look at year 1. What does the quality of coaching look like? What does the training, what are those inputs, those critical inputs into the system? Are they set up for success? And if they're not, what are areas that they could improve upon so that additional supports can be provided so that they are kind of implementing a approach for continuous improvement, and it's not just a kind of a static program. So that's really the focus that we have just completed this past year. And now we're moving into more of the implementation phase. Like, let's go out, let's observe, let's talk to kids, let's talk to parents, let's interview, let's survey, let's focus group to really understand the processes and the mechanisms of the why that this program is working. And then and again, there's gonna be grows and glows there too, right? Areas to improve and areas that they really need to capitalize on their strengths. And then we're also looking at impact, and impact being operationalized across domains. So not just, oh, okay, well, let's see if their standardized test scores are increasing, but looking at kind of constructs of academic achievement from, grades and pass rates in math and courses and school day attendance, as well as health and nutrition outcomes, as well as social emotional outcomes. So how are kids changing in their leadership and their emotional regulation? And so a broad domains that could be changed over time.
So one of the words you said earlier that really struck me was intentionality.
Yeah.
Was that the approach that LA84 is taking to take a program that is working, and it's working anecdotally, but really putting rigor around the measurement of a program that has wide-reaching effects. I know the first factor was coaching. Keith, you were a coach for a long time. Within those years of coaching, talk a little bit about the learnings you took and how that was delivered to you on how to coach and deliver that type of content to kids.
Okay, I mean, when it comes to like coaching, the program offers great clinics, which gives us a lot of help and to give us like resources to know the sport.
Right.
For example, I was not a big volleyball coach, and I never knew anything about volleyball. But with the help from the program, they offered volleyball clinics that taught us the things we needed to do to teach these kids. And now the majority of my kids that were at Columbus, majority of them are all playing volleyball, males and females, and they're competing at a very high level. And the program does teach us good things to pass on to these kids. The program is just not strictly just about sports,
right,
but it's a program that brings coaches and students together that they can have the students can have a support system.
Right, and you touched on one of the most important things is that in order to really affect the kids, you get that learning you get that core learning of the sport itself.
Yeah.
So that you are an expert in that moment.
Yeah.
And you have those teachable moments, and that builds the credibility for you to then reach out beyond that.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, like, for example, like, because of my impact at Columbus, it opened me up for more opportunities. The program when I first started it only averaged close to 20 kids, and by the time I left, it was averaging close to 80 to 100 kids. And all these kids, majority of them were graduating, and the majority of them were troubled kids, the ones that teachers said that they couldn't do anything, that they weren't going to do anything. But the thing is, they graduated, and now they're playing in high school, and a lot of them are competing for scholarships and stuff like that. They're going to use for college.
That's where it's at, right?
Yeah.
Tiffany, I know we're running a little short on time. Going after this 3 years of evaluation, where does that take LA84, and what are the next steps?
Yeah, well, I think the next steps are thinking beyond LA84, beyond the bell. Thinking about really play for all, being able to integrate and include everyone in kind of the magic of sports. But I would say for those of you in the audience thinking about kind of these two pieces that seem to be really critical, that when you look at high quality programs, many high quality programs, again, have systems to monitor that quality, not just track outcomes over time, right? But really monitor the quality in an intentional way that is continuous so that you're always learning and growing as an organization. And then again, thinking about really the role of the coach. So being able to think about the importance of training the coaches well, supporting their implementation, having them get trained on how to create those generalizable skills with students. And so I think that's really where we're headed, to kind of use the evaluation with Beyond the Bell program as a stepping stone to how we can think about the processes that might help us create this, play for all, and what are the conditions under which it works.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you for talking, Keith, and thank you for all the kids here in LA.
Yeah, thank you.